Are you tired of the typical libraries with conventional music that makes you feel meh? Introducing Leerecs.com, the music website made for and by minds like you. Our team are lifelong musicians and producers in love with music. Search the Leerecs music catalogs and find music with guaranteed originality. Mark the difference with music of signature at Leerecs.com.
Rain coming down, drowning in the sound. Strangers pass me by and they leave me in the dark. Cars in the town, but there's nothing else around, and I try to still my breath as I wait. And then there's you with a kindness in your eyes.
So this beautiful voice, we have today Sarah Murdoch with us, and she's this... Hello, Sarah. This wonderful song, In the Dark. And we want to bring you to the light. So tell us about yourself.
So I'm originally from Pennsylvania. It's where I am at the moment. I lived in New York City for almost 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I moved to New York City because I originally wanted to do acting. It's what I went to college for. It's what I was really passionate about. And then I had quite a fair bit of like personal tragedy in my life. So I wound up starting to play music just because I needed an outlet in between acting gigs. And then I discovered that music was actually something that I was deeply passionate about and really helped me to be able to cope with what I was going through at the time. So I started playing music in traditional folk music circles. And then from there, I started learning to play the guitar, and then I started writing my own songs. I kind of haven't really looked back since then. So I've been playing music, writing music, started recording music recently. So that's the broad stroke version of my artistic career.
Wow. It's always sad to hear the circumstances, and I'm sorry about it. But isn't it a wonderful way to give it, like you said, to give an outlet to those feelings? It's always...
Yeah, absolutely. The person who got me into doing music was my mentor, Ken Schatz. And he was actually my acting coach at the time, and he's since become a very dear friend of mine. And one thing that he would say is that art isn't therapy, but it's inherently therapeutic. Yes. And so that's what I would always think of whenever I was dealing with what I was dealing with. And like, it's sad what happened to me, but I don't think that I would actually change it because it led me to doing music. I don't think that I would have done it if I hadn't been through, if I hadn't been through certain things, I don't know if I would have ended up doing music. So in one way, it sucks, but in the other way, I'm actually really grateful for it.
It's a good approach. And so you started actually singing and then learning guitar. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah. I had taken voice lessons as a kid because I did a lot of acting as a kid. And I played like a little bit of piano, but I was never very good at it. Or I was fine, but I never practiced, right. Which is still a thing that I don't do very much of these days. I always have to be like, no, you need to practice, Sarah. So as a kid, I would go to my piano lessons and I would walk in and just sight read everything. And it drove my piano teacher crazy because I was doing fine, but she knew that I could be better. But yeah, so then I actually, in my acting career, I only ever did like one musical because a lot of my acting teachers would tell me that I couldn't sing, which is something that blows people's minds when I tell them. Yeah. Yeah, I tell people that now, and they're like, "Who was this acting teacher, and what crack were they smoking?"
Yeah, it's like
so yeah,
like those big suits in the labels telling the Beatles that they were going to go nowhere, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I didn't think that I was a very good singer, and then met Ken, and he ran a traditional folk music session in New York City called Exceedingly Good Song Night. And what it was is people would just get together and largely sing a cappella. There would be some instruments, but they would largely sing like old traditional folk music. So like sea shanties or work songs, or like there was definitely a contingent that would do like Jewish prayer songs that were really beautiful. And so a lot of that music is just usually sung a cappella, because it's the music of people just living their daily lives, and you don't always have a guitar with you to whip out.
Right.
So I would, be singing a cappella for those, and I started getting a lot of feedback of people being like, "Wow, you have a really powerful voice," and I'd be like, "I do." So then I started working with Ken on music. He was coaching me through doing music, and then I was singing with actually a jazz trio when I started, and I was doing like jazz standards. So I was doing like, Billie Holiday and Nina Simone and, artists like that. And then, and then one day I was like, wow, every time that I want to play out, I have to, pay the jazz band that I'm playing with because they're professional musicians and I want to respect their time. And so then I was like, I should really just learn how to play the guitar, which is something I've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I picked up a guitar and I started learning how to play it. And that was maybe like 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. COVID has really messed with my concept of time. But yeah. And then I was playing just like a regular guitar for a while. And then I'm a big fan of Queens of the Stone Age. So I was learning to play some of, oh yeah, I love them. I was learning, I wanted to do a really, and I still want to do it, I haven't done it yet, but I wanted to do a really bluesy cover of No One Knows. Nice. So I was learning how to play that. Yeah. And it's in C standard tuning. So I was tuning my guitar down, and I hate tuning my guitar. So having to change tuning was really frustrating. So I was just like, well, let me just leave it here and let's see what happens. So I was writing a lot of stuff in C standard and then going out and playing it. But because C standard is so much lower, mm-hmm. All of the strings weren't at the right tension. So they were kind of like flopping around a lot. The sound wasn't excellent. It was fine, but it wasn't excellent. And so then two guitarists that I really admire, one being Hugh Poole, who's a really great blues guitar player, came up to me and said, you should get a baritone guitar. And I had no idea what it was at the time. But I was like, oh, yeah, I'll go find out what a baritone guitar is. Let's go investigate that. And a baritone guitar is tuned even lower than C. It's tuned B to B. Yeah. But you can use all the same shapes that you use in standard tuning. So I got a baritone guitar. I do, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so on In the Dark, I'm playing an electric baritone guitar.
Nice. Oh wow, it's incredible. Yeah. This is incredible. We just recently interviewed another artist, and it was the same case, playing baritone. And I remember, and I remember telling him, look at what a coincidence. I personally just switched to baritones myself.
Yes, baritones are amazing.
Is there like a global conscience? Like what is going on? Is there a tendency?
I don't know, but I there's a musician that I follow on YouTube named Mary Spender, who she just did a video where she was playing a baritone guitar and everybody was losing their minds. And I'm like, yeah, because baritone guitars are excellent.
They are.
Everybody was like, you should play this. It's so great. I'm like, yeah, baritones sound amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, I second that. Yeah. Wow. This is crazy.
Yeah. you're going to have a whole like baritone section of your podcast.
It looks like, yeah. It's probably going to be a hashtag in it.
Yeah.
All right. So now you play. Now we're at the point. Now you know how to play guitar. And what's going on? What happens then?
The first stringed instrument that I ever played was a mandolin, which I got as payment for an acting project that I did. Where it was a friend of a friend situation, and he wanted to do this really cool photography project, actually, where imagine a feature film, but every scene in the feature film is condensed into one still image, and that was his project. So he had people playing characters in different scenes and things like that. And the character that I was playing played the mandolin in this project. And so once it was done, he was like, hey, you can just keep the mandolin. And I was like, oh, great, thank you. So I sort of like struggled with mandolin for a bit.
Fantastic present, isn't it?
I know. I'm like, thank you. So yeah, I struggled with the mandolin for a bit, but I never really took to it in the way that I have with the baritone guitar. I feel like the baritone guitar and I are very good friends. But I also, eventually along the way, I also picked up a couple of banjos. So I play banjo. I actually got a long neck banjo, which again is, you know, kind of like the baritone guitar of banjos, that I rebuilt during 2020. I used my stimulus check. Yeah, I used my stimulus check to get a vintage banjo, and I rebuilt it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, banjos are cool because you can literally just take them apart and change out any part that you want. They're almost like, at least modern banjos. Yeah, so I put a new head on it, the drum part. I put on a new bridge. I put on, you know, I cleaned everything. It was very, very dirty. So I took all the little pins out and I put in some new nuts, put in a new tailpiece, new strings, obviously. I still need to switch out the tuners. Is something that I've been meaning to do because the tuners are very, very stiff. I had replaced the bit of padding. There's a little bit of padding in the tuners for banjos, at least. That's like a piece of suede. And so I had replaced those hoping that it would help, but it didn't. So I need to replace the tuners so that it takes me so much force to tune it. So that's something that I want to do. But I keep forgetting because I typically play the baritone a lot.
So this song, you know, In the Dark, you were telling me before that you started recording as well. So is this the product of that?
Yeah, I in February 2020 I was recording an EP, and then we all know what happened. So yeah, I had recorded for the EP In the Dark. I had recorded another song that's about Lilith, who is the mother of demons. And my baritone is named Lilith, so I was like, this is such a cool mythology behind this character. I should write a song about it, and I did. It's one of my favorites. So I recorded that song, and I recorded Cold Mountains, which is on my Spotify, and I had recorded a version of St. James Infirmary that I play. And I did that all in a studio with Hugh Poole, who I mentioned earlier in the podcast, who told me to get a baritone guitar. He has a great recording studio in Brooklyn called Excella Recording. And so I got some friends together, got like a little band together, and we went and recorded it. And then, then the pandemic happened, and they never went back to finish any of it. So if people keep being like, Sarah, you should finish those recordings because they're really great. And I'm like, yeah, but now I kind of feel like I want to do something different. That's something that I've talked about with one of my friends where, you know, it can take so long sometimes to get a recording ready that by the time that you're done with it, you've moved to a different place artistically.
That is true.
But yeah, I was like, I should put these songs out there at least. So I put a couple of them up on SoundCloud. And yeah, that I'm working on some other stuff.
I would love to hear them. So I'll connect with you later and see. I would love to hear what you did. Yeah. And what is the new stuff? What's tell us then about the future?
Yeah. So there's some stuff that I've been writing. I've been kind of on a little bit of a kick lately, where I either write like really really like personal, emotional songs about heartbreak, or I write about like terrifying mythological figures. So there's one song that I've been playing for a while that just didn't make the cut for the EP recording, but I do really want to record it, called Goblin Market. And it's based off of this poem that Christina Rossetti wrote, where it's this, really, really long poem that is about these two sisters who were washing clothes down by the river one day, and then as they're doing their laundry, this whole troop of goblins comes over the hillside, and they're crying out, come and buy, and they're selling fruit. And so the older sister decides to buy some, and what they ask from her is like a lock of her hair or something like that. And so she buys this fruit and she eats it, and it's like the most amazing fruit that she's ever had in her life, and she becomes obsessed over it. But she can't, now that she's eaten the fruit, she can't see the goblins anymore. They're gone. So she starts wasting away and dying, and all that she can think about is this fruit. And then the younger sister decides that she has to save her. So she goes back to the Goblin Market and asks them for a cure, essentially. And they're goblins, so they're being mean. And they're like, no, your sister's going to die. There isn't anything that we're going to do for her. But they try to force the younger sister to eat fruit, and she doesn't eat any of it, but she ends up having like juice smeared all over her from like them throwing fruit at her. Then she goes back and she gives her sister some of the juice from like her fingertips, and the sister is cured, and then they go on to live happy lives. And I love the imagery of it, but I also love that it's a Victorian era poem where it's like a fallen woman narrative, where the woman isn't cursed to live in infamy for the rest of her days. Like they go on and they live very normal lives and get married and have children. And I really liked that it was more empowering towards women, rather than being like, if you ever step outside of these moral boundaries, you'll be doomed to hell sort of thing. That was more common around then, I think. But I was really fascinated by the goblins, so I wrote a song from the goblins' perspective of selling their fruit, and it's called Goblin Market, and I love singing it. Wow. And the person who harmonizes with me on In the Dark is my very dear friend Kate Clifford, and she sings harmony with me for Goblin Market. So when I record it, I absolutely have to have Kate Clifford sing with me, because she's another very, very talented, powerful singer. Beautiful.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you're working actively on finishing this?
Yes. It might be a little bit. I'm actually, the last year, I've had a whole lot of medical issues come up. Like I had my gallbladder taken out. I just had another surgery. So I'm like recovering. But which is why I haven't been very active on Instagram or in life, is because I've been recovering from some surgeries. But I do want to record, like, if not an EP, like a full album this year, so that I can finally put something out there, and then be out and like be playing more and be doing festivals and things like that. So yeah, I very much have been writing songs with an idea of like, this could go on an album. Like there's along the lines of like terrifying mythological creatures, I wrote a song about sirens, nice. Because everybody always says that I'm like a siren.
Oh yeah.
So I wrote a song about, yeah. Everybody's always like, you have like such like an amazing voice. You sound like a siren. Wow. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So I wrote a song about sirens luring sailors to their death. I always find it so fun whenever I play out or when I go out to open mics or whatever, and people haven't heard me before. They see the way that I present myself, which is like, I'm wearing like a floral dress, and I'm like very warm and engaging and very friendly. And so then, I pull out a guitar, and most of what ends up happening is people assume that I'm going to be doing a very particular kind of sound. And then I sing about goblins and demons, and or just open my mouth and make any noise, and it's never what people are expecting.
That's good.
And I have to admit that it's like one of my favorite feelings in the world is the moment when I feel the room shifting from like, oh, it's a girl with a guitar, to like, oh my God, what is happening?
It's a surprise. It's fantastic. And
yeah,
the topics you mentioned, I mean, there's so much talent, and that would be so interesting that you finish that album.
Yeah.
And root for you. Hopefully, you're able, and sorry about what you've been going through. I'm glad you're recovering now, and hopefully you'll finish this and put it out. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I would. It's something that I'm definitely. I've told all of my friends that I'm not allowed to finish this year without having finished an album. So I have a lot of friends who will call me up and they'll be like, "How's the album coming, Sarah?"
Wonderful. So, okay, this is a great plan for your immediate future. If you think that you would never fail, and you can picture your future the way you'd like it, how do you feel that would be?
Oh, if I could have the future that I want, I would be making my living totally from doing art. I would be, playing music, making money from doing music. And then there's also actually a couple of shows that I really want to write. And so I would write those. So I would just be making my living as a performer. And I wouldn't need to be like wildly successful. Like I wouldn't need to be Adele or anything like that, but I would enjoy being, I think of like Laura Marling, where she is obviously very successful, but she's not like a household name, but she writes really good music. And she writes music that I really resonate with. I think that she's just fantastic. She writes fantastic lyrics. She's a great guitar player, wonderful voice. And I think at one point she actually took time off from being a musician and just went and did yoga for a while, like taught yoga or just studied yoga or something like that. But I would love to not have to have a day job. That would be my definition of success. So be a respected artist and make my living totally doing performance.
Yeah. It's absolutely commendable. And you can. Why not? You absolutely have the talent. It's very attainable.
Thank you. Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure. I know you wanted to mention, before we end this for now, you wanted to mention a very dear to you collaboration you've had with a band in New York. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes. I would love to tell you about that. So this is a band comprised of a bunch of my friends, some of whom I met through Ken Schatz, who I mentioned, where they have this amazing glam punk David Bowie-esque band called The Permanent Revolution. And they are, oh my God, they're one of my favorite bands, not just because they're my friends, but because I love watching them perform so much. They're so fun to watch live because Luke, who is the lead singer, will just do like wild things. Like there was a time I was watching them play and he stripped down to his boxers throughout the 45-minute set. And at one point he took like a bunch of eggs and smashed them on the keyboard player's head. It's fun. But they also have good music to back it up. So yeah, I've been a huge fan of theirs for a long time and I love them all dearly. I think that they're all wonderful people. So Luke wrote a song called Beautiful Bird that he wanted to do as a duet with me. And we had been singing it, for a couple of years. And they had put out a couple of albums, which you can listen to on Spotify or Bandcamp or wherever you listen to music. And so they are doing another album that they're going to be having come out soon. They've been releasing a couple of singles from it. And one of the singles that's going to be coming out is going to be Beautiful Bird. which I sang with them.
Awesome. So the Permanent Revolution, and the song is Beautiful Bird. On the lookout for it, and get us in touch. Why not? We'd love to speak to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love for you to have them on. I would love for them to be more well known.
Fantastic. Sarah, a beautiful voice, and
Thank
you know, with a wonderful project. Sounds super interesting. That we really hope you finish this year. And you know, we hope to stay in touch with you. Thank you so much for your time today. And the last thing is, what is that advice you would give your younger self?
Oh, so many things. I think the advice that I would give my younger self is the same advice that I give to myself every day, especially while I'm in recovery, is that number one, that I shouldn't be comparing myself to other people. I should just be comparing myself to my own journey. And also that it's really okay. It's I think the number one thing that I would say to myself is that it's really going to be okay. And just because you're at this particular moment in your life doesn't mean that that's how it's going to be for the rest of your life. There's plenty of room for growth. There's plenty of time left. You know, I have a whole life left ahead of me, and I don't need to, if I'm beating myself up for not having finished my album or anything like that, it's just going to make it harder for me to be able to do any of the things that I want to do. Like, I need to be in my own corner, as opposed to berating myself every day. So yeah, it's just it's going to be okay, Sarah. It's really going to be okay.
Yeah, it is. Step by step. Looking at the, you know, look at just the progress. We'll look at the progress.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Sarah, it's been a real pleasure. Really, thank you so much for your time. This song is wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
And okay, we're going to enjoy a little bit more of In the Dark. Thank you so much, Sarah. All the best.
Thank you. You too.
And I lose all sense of time. You could fold me in the palm of your hand and keep me for a while. It's warm inside with your body close to mine, and I think of when we'll say goodbye.
Typical libraries with conventional music that makes you feel meh. Introducing Leerecs.com, the music website made for and by minds like you. Our team are lifelong musicians and producers in love with music. Search the Leerecs music catalogs and find music with guaranteed originality. Mark the difference with music of signature at Leerecs.com.